Hi everyone, good to see you again. Well, we have passed about the first half of the semester, and today we will talk about the developmental counseling. There are so many different developmental theories in psychology, and today we will talk about how can we apply the theories of developmental field to the counseling profession. So in your textbook, there are so many different developmental theories, but today I sorted out and I tried to explain some major developmental theories. So please read the textbook carefully to know more and some other developmental theories as well. But anyway, let's take a look at some objectives in Lecture 8. If you look at the objective in this slide, the first objective for Lecture 8 is to explain general characteristics of human development. Human development is very attractive, the concept, because we grow as a person and we develop as a product of interaction with the environment. So we assume that everybody has their potential, which has some internal drive and power to grow. So we will talk about some general characteristic of human development. The second one, identify characteristics of the physical, cognitive, and psychosocial development throughout the lifespan. So we will talk about from the younger period, like childhood and adolescent, and also adulthood. The third one is understand major theories in cognitive, moral, and psychosocial development. As I said, many different theories are suggested and introduced in the textbook, but I chose the three major theories for today, Piaget and Kohlberg and Erikson theory. So we'll talk about some outline of those theories. The final one is to apply developmental theories to understand a person from diverse developmental perspective. So when we work with client, we want to look at the client from developmental perspective, which has many different meanings. So we'll explore that, the developmental perspective today. Okay, the first one is the characteristics of human development. I put down 5 different characteristics here. If you look at the first one, is continual. As we know, when a baby is born, the baby starts to grow. And, in a certain period, they grow very fast, not only in the earlier age, but also even adolescent. It's called the growth spurt, because they grow so fast in middle and high school, as you experienced. But anyway, we develop and we grow throughout the lifespan. It's a continual process, okay? Even though, when we work together with client, sometimes the client and some other, the people that we meet doesn't seem to grow, but actually they grow in itself. So we want to know the development is keep going, is a continual process. The second one is sequential, which means even though they develop in a continual way, but many developmental theorists identified different stage of development. So there is a kind of sequential. So when they reached a certain stage, they usually show a certain characteristic. When they went up the next stage, they usually show a different characteristics. So when we know the stage and sequential perspective, we can predict what would be the next characteristic in their lives. So that is another characteristics. And changes but remain. So we still develop and grow, but we still have some common characteristics as ourselves. Okay, when we interact with the environment, we learn something. We build our knowledge and we construct our concept. So we are growing. So we are being changed. However, we still have some basic common characteristic in ourselves. So it's a kind of build-up process. If you look at the left side, optimistic and preventive, that's another perspective in developmental theories, because when we work with clients, sometimes clients show so serious problem. Sometimes the symptom of client made us think about, oh, do we have a hope? I don't think the client is going to be better, and sometimes it's very pessimistic and some negative. However, we want to believe the clients are still growing and they are in the stage of development, which means we don't want to lose and hope, because we know everybody is developing like this. So we can have some optimistic point of view of the client, and also we can use this whole the concept in working with the client, so that we can prevent their some maladjustment problem. So we can prevent their problematic situation by applying some developmental theories. So these are the characteristics of the human development. And when we look at some the human development, we usually break down 3 different or 4 different ways. The first one is a physical and biological development. I put down here, if you look at here, is some lifespan on the right side from early childhood, usually like the preschooler and kindergartner, and then they go up to the childhood, like elementary school student, and also adolescent, like teenagers from 13 to 19, and then adulthood. Probably you are in the stage of here in the beginning or in the middle of the year. So anyway, even each stage, the person who is in each stage, they are experiencing some development in 3 different ways. The first one is physical and biological development. Let's take an example from some adolescent. What kind of physical and biological change have you experienced when you were in adolescent period? Right, we experienced like a very fast development in height and weight. I mentioned that it's called like a growth spurt. And also, we also experienced some change in our hormone. So most students began to show some secondary sex characteristics in this the age period from this the biological perspective. And next one is some cognitive development. When we go through this stage, we begin to think in a more systemic way. We can also think in more abstractly, and we can also think or we can also hypothesize based on higher cognitive level of thinking. So the cognitive development is another the big the component in human development. The last one is psychosocial. Based on cognitive development, we also develop our kind of identity. We can also expand relationship with others. That is a psychosocial development. So in this period, we as an adolescent are able to interact with many different peers and friends, and also our social status as a adolescent is very different from the elementary or like a kindergartner. So when we look at our human development, we want to look at like 3 or 4 different perspectives. So I gave some example here. So when we look at the client change, we want to explore their development. Is there any some physical or biological influence? How about their cognitive and their thinking process? And also, how about their relationship with others? How about their own self-esteem and self-identity? So we want to look at their issues from a broader and comprehensive perspective. For the next one, Piaget. The first, we will talk about some cognitive theories, cognitive developmental theory by Piaget. He is one of the major figures in this field. Intellectual development. His theory focused on how can we develop our thinking, how can we develop our knowledge. So intellectual development, the first, the concept of Piaget theory is a schema. Schema is a kind of cognitive structure. So when we learn something, we actually receive information. We get some knowledge from outside, and we build kind of cognitive structure in our brain. It's called schema. And the schema developed by 2 different ways. The first one is accommodation. The second one is assimilation. So accommodation is a form of adaptation in which an existing schema is modified. Let me give some example here. Okay. Let me give you some example here. If we, let's say this is a kind of structure of our cognition. So it's a kind of, I just illustrate the schema. When we have a new information from outside, okay, in this case, it's a new knowledge. It's a new, and this is the existing knowledge. So when we receive new information from out there, a form of adaptation in which an existing schema is modified. So when the new information go into the existing, this one has to be transformed. It's called accommodation. For example, let me give another example. If this is color, if it has a color, for example, yellow, and this is red. So when we put red color into yellow, it is transformed to orange. Okay, so the from yellow to orange, that is called accommodation. So a form of adaptation in which an existing schema is modified. However, if we look at this transformation from new knowledge perspective, that is called assimilation. So a form of adaptation in which a stimulus is incorporated. So if we look at the same situation from new knowledge perspective, it is incorporated in here, and then this color changes with orange as well. So it will be growing like this, or it will be transformed by getting some new information. So the whole process of being transformed by getting kind of stimulus or new knowledge to the existing schema is called adaptation. So accommodation and assimilation, it's called adaptation. So this is the whole concept of the Piaget theory here. And also Piaget suggested 4 different stages of development. The first stage is sensory motor, and the second one is pre-operational, and third one is concrete operational, and the last stage is formal operations. So he believed that each stage has a different quality of thinking. So the first one is sensory motor stage. For example, object permanence, which means, you know, when a baby is born, their level of thinking is not really high. So when they look at a certain object, they believe if a certain object is blocks something else, and they believe it's gone. For example, I'm showing this electric choke here, but when I block with this paper, you know it is still here because you know object is still there. But when I show the same action to the baby, and the baby will regard, oh, the chalk is gone. So that's why the baby didn't develop the object permanent concept yet. So actually the Piaget conducted many different experiments to identify some different concepts like here, object permanent. And conservation, and also one of the examples of this stage, pre-operational. You know, we know when we change a certain the shape, and then we still know, even though we are changing the shape, the mass is still there. But in this stage, they are thinking in different way. For example, I'm showing 2 different kind of container here. So if we pour the water here, and then if we pour the water into the different container, it will be like this, probably. Okay. We know the amount of water is the same because we know it is still only the container, the shape is different. However, we know still the amount of water is still conserved. So is it the same? But the early childhood, the person who is early childhood would think in different way because this is high and this is very low. So it is more than this. Okay? Because they only see only one aspect of the object. Because we look at, as an adult, we look at the height, and also we look at the volume at the same time, but they only see only one side of the object. So this is the evidence of that they didn't develop some, the conservation. And concrete operational, that is usually elementary and age. They are able to classify, which means when we are able to classify, which means we are able to kind of extract the common characteristics from the different and many different objects. That require a little bit abstract thinking. So that's another evidence of this stage. And we are all now at the stage of formal operation here. And formal operation is the 3 different characteristics is abstract and systematic and hypothetical thinking. So, we don't have to show the concrete object to explain everything because we can think by language. The language is one of the evidence of abstract, the thinking. And also we develop so many different theories, even personal theory, that based on hypothetical thinking. Okay, we try to develop some theories by using some hypothetical thinking as well. So the Piaget, his theory has very peculiar the concept like a schema, and also he explained our building knowledge by introducing the concept of adaptation, which has two different sides. One is accommodation and assimilation. And also he suggests 4 different stages. Okay. Next one is Kohlberg. So the Piaget theory is more about our cognitive development, but the Kohlberg is his theory focused on our moral development. And in his theory, there are 3 different levels and 6 different stages. The first one is pre-conventional. The second one is a conventional. In this case, conventional means it's more they try to follow some conventional rules and kind of norms, okay, some social level. The final level is a post-conventional. So if we look at each stage, it will show we are different, and they are different in moral reasoning. So if someone in stage 1 is punishment and obedience level, let me give an example here. If someone is cheating, we know cheating is not a good behavior as a student. But each person may have different thought of cheating based on their different level of moral stage. The first one, punishment obedience level, they are thinking their behavior will be okay if they are not punished. So in this case, okay, cheating is good. Cheating will be good if I'm not punished. So very primitive level, that is called stage 1. And self-interest, their reasoning is based on their own interest. So cheating will be good because I could get better grade, better score. That will be the stage 2. It's pretty still, egocentric. It's not really based on some social rule. However, in the next stage, at stage 3, is interpersonal harmony. In this stage, they begin to think their moral reasoning from others' perspective. Well, cheating is not good because if I cheat, and then probably teacher will regard me as a bad student. So they try to decide and they try to judge based on some considering from others' perspective. And stage 4, law and order, is very typical, conventional because they would say cheating is not good, and we must not cheat because that is the rule at school, and we have to follow the rule because that is the law and order. So they try to conform to the standard in the society. That's why it is conventional level. And level 3 is post-conventional. It's more than that. Even though we have some law and order, but actually the kind of agreement between parties are more important. They believe that way. So social contract, the reason why we try not to cheat is because based on our agreement between teachers and students. We agree that by reading the syllabus in the beginning of the semester, we are not going to cheat, and that's not fair. So we agree that. So when they think in that way, based on that assumption, that will be kind of post-conventional stage 5. And the stage 6 is a universal principle. So they try to regard the cheating as not appropriate behavior in kind of universal principle, their own, based on their universal philosophy. So you see some differences, their moral reasoning in different stages. Actually, the Piaget and Kohlberg, their theory is pretty connected. because Kohlberg's theory is based on some cognitive development as well. So if we apply this type of cognitive development, we can apply this theory when we work with the client, for example. You know, based on Piaget theory, each person, they construct their meaning by adaptation, which means each person may have some different meaning. So when we work together with the client may have very different way of thinking, and each person have very subjective meaning. So we want to respect, we want to value their own constructive knowledge. And also Kohlberg's moral development, we identified here a certain level of student, they are still judged based on their own interest, pretty egocentric. And some students, they may see a certain situation by considering some social rule. They try to follow a certain standard. But in the next level, their judgment is pretty flexible, and it's more, they try to stress some agreement between other people. So we want to differentiate when we understand the client, the way of thinking, and also their judgment based on this theory. Okay, the final theories that we want to review for today is Erikson's psychosocial development. It's called the lifespan theory because his theory covered the lifespan, like here. So, for example, if we look at the first stage from birth to 1 year, he developed some major developmental tasks in each stage. So at the first stage is trust versus mistrust. So he believed that trust is a major task that a baby has to experience for the appropriate psychosocial development. We talked about some object relation theory by Mahler in the when we talked about some counseling theory. In that theory, Mahler stressed that some good relationship between a baby and major caregiver. So he believed that Erikson theory is in the same line. So he believed that a baby's major developmental task is to get some trust by interacting with the major caregiver. And for example, like industry versus inferiority, that is usually elementary level. So the major task for them, in particular elementary student, they try to be understood. They try to be regarded as a good student by teacher. Okay, that's why they try to show good achievement to the parents and the teachers, and they do their best to show their industry. And they experience lots of competition in their school life. So if they fail to be satisfied the developmental task, then they would experience some inferiority. So the Erikson stressed some positive and some negative, the both way. How about right now? How about your stage by the Erikson theory? You are now here, intimacy versus isolation, because you are at the stage of here, probably you try to get some intimate relationship with others. So intimate means some, close relationship with opposite sex. So you may want to develop and you may want to experience the quality relationship with a different from other person from different sex. So Erikson theory is pretty sequential here, and His theory stressed the whole lifespan and different developmental the task here. So we talked about the three major different theories by Piaget and Kohlberg and Erikson. The first one, the Piaget focused on some cognitive development. The Kohlberg focused on some moral development. And Erikson expanded to some psycho and social development. So next one is how can we apply this stage theory to the counseling? The first one is making smooth transition. You know, Piaget and Kohlberg and Erikson, the common characteristics of these theories, all the theories have a stage, you know, and also, as I mentioned in the beginning of the lecture, one of the characteristics of development theory is sequential. So we know when we identify a certain student from cognitive level, okay, the client is in the concrete operational level. However, the client's moral judgment is based on some conventional level. And the client's kind of major developmental task is to, you know, some industry versus inferiority. So we know the stage of a client, and we can also predict what would be the next step so that we could facilitate the client's development to the next level. So we wanted to make a smooth transition, increasing their awareness of development. That's related with the next one. Because when we develop, you know, if we have some information from others about our development, that will really relieving our concern and anxiety. Because, you know, when a client shares the client's concern about the inferiority because of the low achievement in their academic area, and we could explain, you know what, that kind of feeling based on some competition, that is pretty natural, and that is a normal reaction as a student in school life. So we can normalize their the feelings. So, you know, this is the developmental task. You know, even though you are not showing good grade this time, but you know, we can encourage and facilitate and their understanding of their status in the whole developmental perspective. Considering multicultural development, you know, we are all multicultural beings. We talked about some different theory, but you know, some other multicultural factor will influence on their development, because development is the product of interaction between a person and environment, and the multicultural aspect is the diversity of the environment. So, you know, as a you know, from that perspective, different culture will impact on our development as well. You know, that's why the Western, the people and Eastern people, like Asian people, they have a different way of thinking as well. So we also want to consider some multicultural issue as well. And also, if we need some more and advanced knowledge from others, we want to seek some consultation from others. So today we talked about some different theories from developmental perspective, but the textbook introduced some other theories as well. For example, Gilligan's woman's moral development, and also adult cognitive development, like Kagan and Perry, and also Levinson's lifespan theory, and also the textbook introduced some phase development, like Fowler theory. So today I just outlined some major theories in this field. So I encourage you to read some other theory by reading the textbook as well. So as I said in the beginning of the lecture, development is very attractive a term. When we understand a client and a person from developmental perspective, we want to keep kind of hope and optimism about enhancement of the client situation, because we know they are growing and they are being developed by themselves. So today we talked about some developmental issue, and I hope you enjoyed this lecture today. Any questions are welcome. So please post your question to the website. I'd like to respond to your question. Thank you for listening, and see you in next lecture.